Let's not forget as well, very much like Damiano Cunego, he was also a world junior champion, Pavel Tonkov. That was back in 1987. The young man we're looking at there has had a little bit of bad luck this afternoon. The pink jersey's been stopped at the side of the road on a couple of occasions, mainly with mechanical incidents. But Bob and I are wondering whether or not the weight of that pink jersey on his shoulders is going to put him under pressure tomorrow when we go into the real high mountains. Gilberto Simoni is saying that he will be the perfect teammate and he will look after his team leader, as Cunego is at the moment, but in the back of his mind, Bob, he is still a champion. I wonder if we'll get treated to a Greg LeMond Bernard Hinault scenario on the road to the Dolomites tomorrow.
I don't think that we'll see Simoni attacking per se, but he would definitely try to take advantage of any serious difficulty that Cunego would in. I'm sure he would do as much teamwork as was needed as long as Cunego could stay with Gonchar, Popovic, perhaps some of the other riders like Vladimir Obeli sitting in 7th place on GC, who I'm sure would love to attack in the big mountains. Belly, a very strong climber. It's going to be an exciting couple of days. A lot could happen, and it all depends on whether or not Cunego can maintain the good form that he showed the day before the rest day. Coming out of the rest day, it's been a different story so far.
Well, looking down on the field breaking up, I understand that we had a slight loss of picture at the start of this segment, so we apologise for that. But let me update you straight away. Tonkov getting away from Bertolini, and as a result of that, he's now well cleared of Bertolini. First and second on the road, a chasing group of 8, and then a little way back to the pink jersey, about 4 minutes in fact, so they're not turning on the gas to chase down Tonkov. They don't need to at the moment. He's far too far behind in the overall classification. He's 9.53 down, in fact. So he's not a danger man just now. 7 kilometres to go, but while we are looking at Tonkov, I just want to thank you for all of your emails. We've had plenty of them. One that I'm reading today comes from Ed in Newberry, Ohio. And Ed, you're 72 and you ride 100 miles a week. I think that is absolutely fantastic. You're a little bit confused about riders who break away in front of the peloton, and what determines, you say, the rabbit, and why should he set the pace, and can there be a stage when nobody gets away off the front? Well, there most certainly can. The sprinters love those days because they try to keep the race together. But sometimes, you know, it's an inspirational thing. A rider gets fed up of riding along for 6 hours talking to the boys, and he tries an attack. Occasionally it works. Then there are tactics, there are reasons for sending teammates up front to try and draw the sting of the other teams to chase him down and waste their energy. There's 1,000,001 reasons why you break away from the race. In Paul's case, it was to try and get some ground before they caught up with him. Right, as the race goes on, this is the Denardi team on the attack now, with the only British rider, by the way, a little bit of nepotism here. Charlie Wegelius is in this team, had a great ride 2 days ago, and he's up into the top 45 riders now, so we're hoping he might make a top 40 finish before the end. Charlie is a really nice guy from where Paul Sherwen comes from, in Cheshire in Great Britain, and Paul in fact advised him on his way to being a top pro. Okay, the race goes on. Tonkov is in the lead, and we're taking a break. Rider lives in Italy, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia, now trying to win a stage, and I think he's just nipped by the 4 kilometres to go sign there.
It's a great performance by Tonkov here this afternoon, and you get a chance to see as we come into this final 4 kilometres. This is where it starts to climb up towards the finishing line in the town of San Morinco. And around about 2 kilometres to go, it gets even worse because it kicks up to around about 8%, and you can see the difference in his pedalling cadence there. He has slowed down a little bit. Well, a lot of people have said, where's the devil? Well, there he is. He's turned up. I think maybe he's been on holiday for the last couple of weeks.
He must have found some other event to follow, I think, because everybody's been emailing us as to why they haven't seen the devil. So a great relief all round. He is there, getting ready. He's probably preparing for the Tour de France, I would suspect. Pavel Tonkov cheered all the way here. He rode a brilliant race tactically, a lot of confidence today to join the 2 leaders on his own, blow them apart, and now continuing by himself. And here's my old mate, Rafael Iliano. Not too sure where he was in that shot, but I hope just ahead of the rest of the group. This is the pink jersey bunch. Igor Astolo, the world champion, one of the last riders to catch on to this train, as it now gets a little bit bigger. But the bad news is, of course, Giuliano Figueras is over 10 minutes behind and counting. He missed the move today for whatever reason. Now, this is the rider who's going to be able to enjoy the last 3 kilometres because he'll know they're not going to bridge the gap to him now.
Looking at his pedalling action there, Bob, I don't think he's actually enjoying this very much. He's not taking time to savour that because he realises that if he can conserve a bit of that advantage, he'll pop himself up possibly to just outside the top 10 with a ride like this.
With a ride like that, he'll be in the top 10 on DC, which is a great place to finish for anybody. But winning a stage is a lot more prestigious. So Vini Caldirola needing some results. Steve Zampieri did a great job for Tonkov, countering the counterattacks that came from behind. He sat on all of those, including Iliano put in one, Olivier Zog put in a couple of those. But when you have a rider sitting on your wheel like Steve Zampieri, you don't want to do any work. So that gave Tonkov the advantage to stay away. He's really having a hard time now on this kilometer here. Must be a pretty heavy piece of road, even though it doesn't look like it on the TV screen. He's climbing up the very last bit of heavy-duty gradient before the finish line. And we're getting a time check now of 1 minute and 10 seconds. So the group now starting to close. It's going to be closer. I think it's a little bit closer than we think it is.
Well, it's 1 minute and 10 seconds to Bertolini, who still survives in second place out on the open road. And I think he will hold on to that second place as Tonkov approaches the 3 kilometer to go banner. There's the second man on the road, looking very comfortable there, using a much smaller gear than a man at the front, Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov has always been renowned as being an exceptionally strong bike rider. Just look at the way the top half of his body is not moving at all. All of the power is coming from those big thighs of his and also from the bottom half of the back too. He's a strong bike rider. Been a very good time trialist over the last couple of years as well. You get a comparison there with the two different styles. Pavel Tonkov on the left and Alessandro Bertolini on the right.
And Bertolini's riding extremely well now. He's going to kick himself at just that moment of fatigue. He couldn't answer Tonkov's attack, but take your hat off to Tonkov. He knew he had to get rid of Bertolini because Bertolini almost certainly would have outsprinted Tonkov let it come down to a sprint finish. This is the chase group. Denardi, the pacemaker's doing all the work here. Gonchar is in that group, of course, still holds a very high place overall with 2 more test days to come for him in the mountains. And then if he comes through those, he'll make it to Milan in a very high finish in the Giro.
Already a winner of a race this year. This man, certainly I agree with you, Phil, will be kicking himself that for just 50 meters he wasn't able to stay on the wheel of Pavel Tonkov. He too now is getting to the steeper part of the course. In between 3 and 2 kilometers to go, it really does kick up. You can see one of the riders from Seiko in the main field having done a big job. They're trying to set their man up, Damiano Cunego, for a good finish. It's, I think, a psychological move here because they're trying to prove to the rest of the field that he hasn't got any problems at all, and he still is the #1 man on Team Seiko.
Still 6 teams taking all of their riders to the finishing line this race. Have had very few dropouts this year indeed. 141 riders still in the race. And there were 97 made the finish last year when the same number of starters. So unless there's a mass fallout in the next 2 days, and I'm pretty sure we probably could see probably 10 riders going out in the next 2 days because the roads are very, very difficult. Without doubt, the most difficult roads of the race this year. Big test for young Cunego. Just who is leading that team now. Certainly I feel Simone cannot attack his young mate now. He's got to go with him, but if he fades, of course, Simone is there.
He will be very unpopular in Italy if he was to go out on the attack and try and attack his own teammate Damiano Cunego, who I think the whole of the cycling fans are getting right behind, because it's so good to see a young man, 22.5 years of age, ride such a dominating race. And Bob, the way he took the pink jersey back again was pretty remarkable.
That was a great ride, a very impressive effort put in by Cunego. He swept everybody that was in front of him, absolutely no problem, wiping up the road with those riders, and soloed to the finish line on a very, very difficult stage. So Cunego, a man for the future and a man of the present now that he's in the pink jersey. He seems to be riding better in the finale of this stage, so hopefully the legs will come back around and get underneath him again in the big mountains. Here's Bertolini starting to lose a little bit of time. 1 minute 10 was the last check. Now it's up to 1 minute and 41 seconds. And so Bertolini losing time, but still holding on in front of the peloton. He'd love to get second place on the stage. And this is the train of Saeco at the front. There they all are, still in the bike race. Damiano Cunego tucked into second position right there. Simone just sitting on the back of that line. And they have done a great job today to conserve it for Cunego, who's had a bit of a rough day out on the roads.
Nice to see that banner at the side of the road there. Forza Fan Club Pavel Tonkov. Well, they're going to have a good time this evening because Pavel Tonkov is going to come up with the win on this stage. He's got 1 minute and 40 seconds over Bertolini, but he's still got around about 3.5 minutes over the main field. He won't move up the overall classification quite that high, but I think probably in the back of his mind, Phil, the most important thing for him today is to get himself the stage victory, because it's a long time since he's lifted those hands aloft in victory.
Most certainly is. And he's coming to the end of his career now, of course, at 35 years of age. This is a little bit further down, but this is at the back of the pink jersey group, or just off the front of it. It looks like Ardila is trying to get away from the pink jerseys. Yes, he is. We saw Galetti trying the same stunt, and I'm not sure if Galetti's still out in front. We haven't seen him come back, because our cameras don't know where to go next here today. We also saw Iliano attack the chase group. As far as we know, he's still clear of that chase group of 8 men and could be the third rider on the road. Another great result for him if that is the case. 1 kilometre to go, the arrival of Pavel Tonkov, the last foreigner to win this race back in 1996, hasn't won a race since stage 17 of the Giro d'Italia 2 years ago. And here he comes, déjà vu.
Stage 17, it's amazing how history repeats itself sometimes in these major tours. He now is inside of the last 700 metres, still sitting firmly on the saddle, still looking to go around the final bend and see the finishing straight in front of him. And I don't think he will start to celebrate until the last possible moment.
Well, we saw Cunego sprinting out for every second he could a couple of days ago. Tonkov's still high up there in the GC in the top 20 and 19th place at the start of the day. He'll move up a few slots, but more importantly, he'll give a stage win to the Vini Calderola team, maybe suffering a little bit because Stefano Garzelli hasn't had such a great Giro.
Almost certainly a top 10 places now overall, probably in 10th place for Tonkov. It'll all depend on the finishing times of the other riders. Gone from that top 10, there will be Figueras, so he might even make 9th. But either way, it'll mean another great performance by this Russian cyclist in the Giro d'Italia. Here he comes at 35 years of age, his 15th season as a professional cyclist, his first win for 2 years, and he's done it so well as he crosses the line to complete the 17th stage of the Giro d'Italia. Exactly 2 years since his victory in this event, and no wins in between. Let's hope that Bertolini can hang on. The clock is starting now. Well, the congratulations, he should do. 1,500 metres from the line, he's going to get second. This is a man, Paul, who won Paris-Brussels in the late 90s. Now, that was a sprinter's race, and that's why Tonkov had to get rid of him.
Tonkov knew in the back of his mind that if he wanted to win the stage here this afternoon, he had to win it alone. I didn't expect him to attack, though, exactly at 20 kilometres to go. I would have thought he would have left it until the final climb of the day. But he obviously could feel that the man with him was starting to weaken, and that's why he decided to ride alone for the last 10 miles of racing. This man will survive. He'll be a little bit upset because second is never a great position to finish in. But at the end of the day, he has been on the attack. He has been seen on national television and international television as well. This is the group of Maglia Rosa. This man, I think, is going to try and lead them home there, Damiano Cunego, Phil, because I think psychologically he wants to put his hands back on the top of the pack.
So Bertolini rides up towards the line. You can see by his build he's a good sprinter. Stocky legs, small frame of a body rather than his bicycle frame as he races up towards the line. He's got no fears of being brought back now from behind. There's the chase behind. I think they've wiped out. We're looking at the pink jersey group, which is still 8 riders in between, and our cameras have left that group. We're not sure who is leading that group just now, but there is Gilberto Simoni. Quiet day for the overall leaders, and I think we expected that to be the case. Here he comes, Bertolini racing home for second place. Been a long break for him. He was already clear with 87 kilometres to go with Oscar Pozzi. Pozzi was taken back, and up came Tonkov to spoil a perfect day for Alessandro Bertolini. Wise man, check over your shoulder, make sure the cavalry don't wipe you out. This is the main field pink jersey. They're still a little way down the road, but they are closing in. Look at that clock, you see, 1:55, and he takes second place, but a consolation wave to the crowd there, Bob.
Yes, that's a nice little prize for Bertolini, not known as a climber by any stretch of the imagination. To get a second place on a stage this difficult is quite a good result. But look at that time gap. Pavel Tonkov absolutely stomping to the finish line, 2 minutes 14 ahead of second place. And here comes the group just behind Bertolini. He did well to stay in front of them. And they've closed down quite dramatically here at the last couple of kilometers of the bike race.
Well, we're quite surprised to see the pink jersey. They've wiped out all of those riders in between. We got no information on that at all. This might be Olivier Zog just holding them off here, having been one of the original 8 riders, but the pink jersey group has thinned out dramatically from about 45 riders to this small group. So there's been a major attack there, and look at Cunego go. That man taking on Brad McGee is full of beans.
Absolutely, he really wants to show everybody that he's fine. He's got over his rest day. He might have had a bit of mechanical bad luck out on the course, but physically and mentally there is absolutely nothing wrong with him at all. And I think that was also a point of honour for Brad McGee to get himself up there, Phil, because he was very upset with that 20-second penalty he was given overnight. He just wanted to show the judges he doesn't need to hang on to any cars at all.
Oh, Brad is absolutely livid. He rang the national coach of Australia, Shane Bannon, and said, I'm going home. And Shane had said, I'll call you back. And he spent time on the phone telling him why he must not go home. He certainly appears to have been robbed of 20 seconds, which at the moment means nothing. But who knows what might happen before this race does reach Milan. Anyway, Brad continues and clearly over that little bit of a spit, as they say in Australia, and sorting it out. Here's the winner of the day. Won't affect the overall classification, but he's done extremely well now, Pavel Tonkov, to have yet another successful Giro d'Italia. You'll see it now as a big success. Gives Avina Calderola the first stage win of the Tour, isn't it, Bob?
Yes, that's the first stage win after a couple last year with Garzelli and second place on the podium. I think Garzelli not having a great Giro d'Italia, so the team sent this man a signing in the off-season to do a great stage win. Seems to be quite pleased with it, and he has shown his rear wheel to the whole peloton, and rightly so, celebrating there.
World champion just coming in there, Igor Astroloa. He in fact managed to catch back up with the pink jersey group out on the road, but I think that last climb up to the finishing line certainly made a few riders gasp for breath as they got left behind.
There are clearly a lot of tired legs, although the peloton has been staying pretty much compact. That last climb was obviously where the pink jersey, Simone et al. Got away from the rest of that group. So I would think tomorrow we're going to be looking for a very large blanket to cover this race. I think there will be a lot of tired riders as they sped into the big mountains again. It's going to be a tough day tomorrow, that's for sure. Could be the most crucial stage of the Tour, but we've been saying that for the last few days now. We will wait and see. There's the rider who finished second, Alessandro Bertolini. He'd be very annoyed he didn't get the win, but he had a great ride today and he hung on for second. It's not easy when you've been dropped by Pavel Tonkov. Anyway, we'll take a break, come back and rejoin us for all of the updates.
Milan has been brought to you by Trek, the 5-time champion of the Tour de France. It's not just a bike, it's a Trek.
And welcome back. We've just seen Pavel Tonkov take his first stage victory, first race victory in 2 years, exactly the same stage he won 2 years ago in the Giro d'Italia. It'll do nothing to the overall. There was a big fight back off our cameras there, unfortunately, today. And Cunego has gone over the line in 4th place, just missing out on a bonus. So he stays 1:14 ahead of Honchar, 2:28 ahead of Popovic. But that boy is full of fight.
He's full of fight. He wants to fight every way, every inch of the road, all the way down to Milano. That was very important for him to get up to the front of the bunch towards the end there and show that he still is in fine form. But he's going to have a very difficult day in the saddle tomorrow, and I think it's going to be one of the toughest mountain stages because it's only 118 kilometers long. That's around about 70 miles, but it's got 3 very big passes, and it is, of course, let's not forget, an uphill finish to Bormio 2000, and that is going to see a real sort out, I think, in the overall classification. One big loser this afternoon, Juliano Figueira, started the day in 5th place. Now he's probably in 55th.
He hasn't come in yet.
Figueira's losing a lot of time. McGee, Belli, Garzelli, Cioni, Pelizzotti, the other riders in the top 10 will all move up a place. Juliano Figueira did not have a good time during the rest day. We don't know exactly what the nature of his difficulties were, but we'll find out perhaps overnight. But he's going to lose a lot of time and tumble out of the top 10 on GC.
Yeah, that's very sad. In fact, he was riding a good race. I thought at one stage he was going to make a top 3 finish, but today was the day when he confirmed he wasn't. He started in 5th and almost certainly dropping right down the list now to probably just outside the top 20. We haven't got a time for him yet, and in fact, as far as we know, he has yet to cross the line.
I suppose you could say it's a 2-horse race.
Indeed, indeed. Looking at the finish now, watch this, because up comes Brad McGee here in the race for 3rd place. There was a bonus here. There's one rider just in front of him at the moment. They're about to wipe him out, and I think once Cunego saw number 85, McGee, still considered a potential danger perhaps, he was off like a rabbit, straight after the back wheel, but then on the line. On the right, McGee just gets it. Now, if Cunego had got that, and he shook his head, he was really annoyed because that was a chance of a bonus, and that would have taken him even further ahead of the race. Very, very interesting.
Brad McGee, though, is riding superbly, and I wonder how well he's going to do in the big mountains tomorrow, because it really is going to be a day to go upside down in the overall classification. Bradley McGee making a point of honour in leading the main field home there. This man, from a man who's been a world track champion to riding over the mountain passes, is remarkable. But Pavel Tonkov got his day here this afternoon, 2 minutes 14 seconds ahead of Alessandro Bertolini. Brad McGee leading them home and closing down with the rest of that group an awful lot of time over the last 10 kilometres to lead them home in third place, 2:49 in arrears.
McGee will be really pleased with that. That'll be, as Paul said, a point of honour there. These are the rest of the breakaways. Garzelli was in there, that's good for him. Popovic was in there. Emmanuel Seller, who became a star this year with his stage win, he's in there. Ruben Lobato completing the top 10, all given the same time as they came in that nice little tight group, 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So that is why they remain all at the same time in the overall classification. But there was a small bonus available there, and Cunego almost got it. And had he got it, he would have increased his lead today, which would have been a big surprise.
Well, Bradley McGee getting back 8 seconds of the 20-second time penalty he was given yesterday. I think Bradley was actually looking for the win. He's probably a little bit upset that there was a breakaway off the front end of the group, because he would have liked to try and get that win if he could. And he certainly is showing us, Bob, that he's got an awful lot of form left in the end of this Giro d'Italia. He wants to go away from here, ride the Tour de France, and then try and get himself an Olympic gold medal in the individual pursuit. It's a long, hard road up to Athens, though.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, this is a track rider, world champion, now racing with the very best climbers in the Tour of Italy. So very impressive, great form. Bradley McGee shouldn't have too much trouble going around a track after conquering these mountains of the Giro d'Italia.
Incidentally, Thomas Vickers, who was sprinting very well in this race for the first 10 days, he retired and went over to the World Track Championships in Melbourne, where they're taking place at the moment. Didn't ride too well, I have to tell you, in the points race. He finished outside, well outside of the medals, and I would imagine it's an incredible change to start riding around a 250-metre indoor cycling stadium, banked like a wall of death, after riding 200 kilometres on the open highway. It takes a while to readjust.
It certainly does. It's a completely different kind of pedalling action. It's a much smaller gear, and you've got to tick it over at 100 and 110 revolutions every minute, and it is a seriously difficult and different way of racing. Bad day for Team Lampre as well, because they lost 2 of their top men. Jans Verada and Luciano Pagliarini had to abandon the race, and both of them have been taken to hospital with suspected fractures. One to the shoulder for Pagliarini. Let's hope that he gets himself back. But Phil, tomorrow is going to be a very important stage, because it is a monster at just 118 kilometres, but I think it's the profile that's going to be more scary.
It's not that far by the way these boys ride, but it's the last mountaintop finish of the Tour. We've had 2. This is the 3rd, and it is the hardest. Up to Bormio 2000, over the pass of Ternate and the Gavia, which is the big one, of course, the high spot of this year's race, and it's the Cimo Coppi. Fausto Coppi, who put his name to this race, was one of the great Italian cyclists. He gets the honour of naming the highest point of the Tour. There is the climb, 12%. It is a nice long one at almost 6 miles to the summit. Big sort-out day tomorrow. We'll be with you, and we hope you are with us live as we go up those mountain passes, starting at 9:30 a.m., 6:30 on the western coast. Our re-air coming to you at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. As we switch back to the finishing line, here comes the group Figueras and Pataki, and he's going to cross the line just on 14 minutes lost. And out of the top 20 will go Giuliano Figueras. There is Pataki. He won't care. He's completed a day. That's all he's interested in. He hates the mountains. He's thinking of the final day in Milan.
I know how he feels. I used to hate the mountains pretty much myself, but he did a great job staying in that group, surrounded by his teammates. They will have to nurse him through the next 2 stages, the big 2 mountain stages to come, if he wants to be the winner of the overall points race, a very prestigious title that he would like to take home. And of course, he would like to go one better on his record there. He's got 8 stage wins in the Giro d'Italia, and he's got a very good stage win possible on the final day around the streets of Milano.
Well, I'm not quite sure what that was on the side of the mountain, but I certainly wouldn't be going over there. As we look down the beautiful countryside here,
that was the ladder to success.
There was the ladder to success or failure, depends where you're going, I suspect. But looking out now on the lovely countryside here, tomorrow it's into the Dolomites, and it is a real tough day indeed. Cunego is showing absolutely no signs of being a tired cyclist, is he? Because if he was tired, he would have just cruised home in that group, thanking his stars that he was home. But instead, he tried to steal a bonus on the line. He is going to be one tough man to beat now, and I think his biggest rival might well be his team captain, Gilberto Simoni. And there he is, Simone, though, now has got to play the gentleman. He cannot go out and attack his teammate who is leading the race. He's going to have to hope, perhaps secretly, because he won't say it publicly, that Cunego falters and he can take over the race mantle. It's all going to unfold in the next 2 days of the Giro d'Italia, because on the last day into Milan, it's nice and flat circuits of that lovely city, and that will swing the race back to the sprinters. Who's going to lead this race into Milan, Bob?
I think it's going to be Gilberto Simone.
Oh dear, Paul?
It's going to be a big day. Simone's going to have a big chance. I think the suspense is going to be here on OLN, and I'm going to be here to watch it.
Well, always the coward. I'm going to tell you, it'll be the guy wearing the pink jersey who'll win the tour. Okay, well, I hope you're enjoying our coverage. Thanks for all your emails. We're enjoying bringing this race. It is a very good race this year and full of interest and intrigue. Don't forget, come and see us on olntv.com. But until tomorrow, for Bob Roll, Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye till 9:30 Eastern Time tomorrow. So long.